Hello everyone, it's me Arvind catching you on another Math Tutor Edu's lecture video. Okay, in this lecture video, I'm going to talk about some of the important concept, and most probably it's going to be a new concept for you to learn. Okay, especially in this new AdMaths KSSM syllabus, which is none other than the vertical test. Okay, within the functions chapter, so it is called a vertical test subtopic. So we're going to go through that. Okay. So let me just write over here, vertical test. Okay, so this is our new subtopic that I feel that the student need to know what is actually a vertical test. Okay, let me underline this. Okay, so what is exactly a vertical test is? Okay, vertical test is basically a condition to determine whether a graph is a function or not using a vertical straight line. Okay, it is just a condition, or you can call it as a test, and that is why the name is also known as the vertical test. Okay, so how the vertical test is going to look like? Okay, so I'm going to explain to you now, but before that, if you learned the type of relations, okay, it will be very useful for your vertical test over here. Basically, you have four type of relations, right? One to one, one to many, many to one, and many to many. Okay, out of these four, two of them are functions and the remaining two of them are not a functions. Okay, if you know which one is a function and which one is not a function, it will be useful for you to conduct the vertical test. It will be easier for you. Okay, so basically we're not going to draw an arrow diagram. We are going to just plot a graph, sketch a graph, and then from there we're going to check whether that graph is a function or not. Okay, that is just a summary of a vertical test. Simple as that. Okay, enough of the explanation. Let me just go through the example for you. Okay, so for example, okay, let me draw an axis over here. So this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. Okay, origin. Okay, let me give you one of the easiest example. Okay, let me draw straight line. Okay, so this is a straight line graph directly from the origin. Okay, so let us conduct the vertical test. Okay, so we're going to use a different color palette to differentiate. Okay, so the vertical line, straight line, is going to intersect the graph. Okay, and here is the important note: if only one point intersects, that means the graph is a function. Okay, since only one point intersects, that means the graph is a function. Okay, and by the way, do you know what type of relations is this? Okay, this is example of one to one relations. Okay, remember guys, when you conduct the vertical test, okay, it must intersect only one point at a time. Okay, when you draw this vertical line, it only have to intersect one point. If it intersect more than one point, that means it is not a function. Let me show you another example. Okay, so okay, axis, y, x. Okay, let me draw an origin over here. Okay, horizontal line. Okay, so before we proceed to do the vertical test, this graph is actually an example of many to one relations. Okay, so let me just switch the ink. Okay, so this is actually one of the example of many to one relations. So you have many inputs, but then you only have one single output. Okay, so this is how a many to one graph looks like. Okay, so this is a many to one, many to one. Okay, when you learn in the relations, you know that the one to one and many to one is a functions. Okay, we know that theoretically. So how are we going to prove that? Using the vertical test. Okay, let us perform the vertical test now. Okay, so let me intersect. Okay, draw a straight line and then it will intersect the graph. Okay, as you can see here, only one point intersects. Okay, if it only intersects at one point at a time, that means the graph is a function. Okay, the graph is a function. So we have already proved that is a function. Okay, so I hope you guys understand the concept of this vertical test. Okay, as you can see here, one to one and many to one, we have already proved that is a function because it only intersects one point at a time. Okay, let me show you some examples. Okay, maybe another two more examples. Okay, let me give you a slight trickier example. Okay. Okay, instead of a straight line, I give you a curve. Okay, so let us perform the vertical test. Okay, so I take a vertical test. Okay, and I draw a vertical straight line, intersect through the graph, and as you can see here, it only intersects one point at a time. Okay, and this is example of one to one. Okay, one to one relations. Okay, so is this graph a function? Yes, it is. Okay, so the graph is a function. The graph is a function. Okay, continue with the next example. Okay, let me draw the axis y and x. Okay, y axis, x axis, origin. Okay, so from here, okay, let's say I'm having a graph something like this, shape looks like this. So is this graph a function or not? So let us check it using our vertical straight line test. Okay, wait on guys. Okay, so when you draw a vertical straight line, as you can see here, it intersects more than one point. Okay, it intersects more than one point. Okay, so this is example of one to many, guys. Okay, so as you can see here, this type of graph is an example of one to many. Okay, and since it intersects more than one point at a time, the graph is not a function. Okay, so simple as that. Okay, let me show you one more example before we end our lecture video for today. Okay, one last example, guys. Okay, because I want to make sure you guys understand it well. Okay, one last example. Okay, let us draw the axis, okay, origin. Okay, let me draw the graph. Boom, boom. Okay. So, is this graph a function or not? Let us check it together. It's okay, I will swap the ink. Okay, so you're going to use the vertical straight line test. As we draw the vertical straight line, it intersects more than one point at a time. Okay, and this is also an example of one too many. Okay, guys. So it's a one too many. Okay, and since it intersects more than one point at a time, the graph is not a function. Okay. So we have come to the end of our lecture for today. Okay, but before we end it, let me just give you a quick summary of what is exactly a vertical test. Okay, vertical test is basically a condition to check whether a graph is a function or not using a vertical straight line test. Okay, as you can see here, one to one, many to one are the examples of a function. Okay, guys, and as you can perform the vertical straight line, it only intersects one point at a time, whereas for the one to many, it intersects 2 points at a time. That's why it is not a function. Then you can ask me, so how about many to many? Basically, many to many, you can't able to form a graph. It is very difficult to plot a graph. It will be very complex. Okay, and it will not have a good shape of a graph. So that is the reason why I didn't show you the example of many to many. Okay, guys. Okay, so that is all for our lecture video for today, and I hope you have understand the vertical test concept that I've taught to you. If you like this video, make sure that you give a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more upcoming AdMaths lecture videos in the future, and make sure that you share this video to your friends. Thank you everyone for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.